Well, it's another week of Mondays with Myles. I'm Anthony Calhoun. President Brand is not with us this week, so join us in his place is Rachel Newman Baker, a part of AGA. Good to see you as always.
Nice to see you.
Okay, my first question for you is, what in the world is AGA?
Good question, good question. It is Agent, Gambling, and Amateurism Activities.
And why does the NCAA oppose to sports wagering?
Well, ultimately, sports wagering not only affects our student-athletes' well-being, but also the most obvious concern is the integrity of our contests.
Yeah, and so you guys stay pretty busy, too, as well, right?
Especially this time of year when gambling amongst our college sports, and obviously particularly the basketball tournaments, we start getting closer and closer.
Yeah, and so are student-athletes, are they allowed to bet at all?
Good question. No, they are not, but the rule doesn't cover just student athletes. A lot of people always talk about how our rule book is so thick and there are so many rules. But this is one rule that actually involves not just student athletes, but our coaches, our athletics administrators, and even us as NCAA National Office staff all have to abide by the no sports wagering rule. And essentially, it's pretty simple. It just says that any one person in that group is not permitted to either solicit or place a bet on college or professional athletics.
Well, so you're telling me if you had something here at the NCAA, if you will, here we are in March Madness, season of March Madness, that if you did any type of brackets or any polls or anything like that, you couldn't take part at all, right?
We couldn't take part if there's money involved. Specifically as it relates to fantasy leagues and pools, if you're putting something in with an opportunity to win something in return, putting something at risk on the front end and there's a prize on the back end, then that's going to meet our definition of gambling under the NCAA rule, and you would not be permitted to do that.
Yeah, and so what happens to a student athlete that participates in something like this?
Well, the penalties actually range based on the severity of the circumstances. If a student athlete bets on their own institution, they're actually permanently ineligible. If they're involved in any type of sports wagering offense that might involve a bookie or the internet or a parlay card, it would be a minimum of 1 year penalty.
Wow. Is, when you think of just as far as any type of wagering, a lot of people associate that sometimes maybe with Division I athletes because of, the sport, I should say, because it's so big time and so high level. Is it just a problem with Division I sports, or do you see it beyond that, Division II, Division III?
It absolutely goes beyond that. Now, obviously, Division I, with our men's football, men's basketball, that's where you really get to the integrity of the game concerns. But as it relates to Division II and Division III, when we did our study of our student athletes in 2003, we actually found that our Division II and III student athletes had the highest involvement in wagering activities.
Really? Division II, Division III, you said? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people ask, what harm can, a little pool do, for just that with some friends? Like, what can that do? If you a little money here and there. I mean, what can that,
I get asked that question a lot, especially during this time of year. And is a dollar pool going to be the demise of college sports and result in a point-shaming scandal? Probably not, realistically. But we are aware of office pools across the country, and some of them reach in excess of $100,000. And when you start talking that kind of money, that's when you start getting concerned about people being able to approach student athletes and worry about something potentially happening to the games.
Yeah, and your office, you guys are monitoring this like crazy, right? Especially during this time of the year?
Absolutely. Well, all throughout the year, we monitor our Division I men's basketball and men's football contests in terms of line movement in Vegas and on the internet as well. So, absolutely, yes.
And Rachel, the main reason for more than anything is just for the integrity of the game, right?
And the student athlete's well-being. I mean, this obviously can have a very negative impact on their life if they get hooked up into something like this.
And when you talk to the coaches and the athletic directors, and when they come in for meetings with the NCAA, is this a message that you really try to stress to the coaches and to them to stress to their players and their student athletes that, hey, we do not stand for anything like this, any type of wagering at all?
Absolutely, and trying to work it up into that laundry list of things that all the coaches are trying to get across from a messaging standpoint. But I think if you ask most of our ADs at all levels what thing might keep them up at night or what thing concerns them, gambling is usually very close to the top of that list.
That is amazing to hear. Wow. Rachel, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Always good seeing you.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Much more, or actually, if you have any questions for us, or you have some ideas for the show here on Mondays with Myles, don't forget to check us out here at the Double A Zone. So for Rachel, I'm Anthony. That's it for this week's Mondays with Myles. We'll see you next week.